It didn't take long. In the early hours of August 9th, a Dewey Beach iconic restaurant was reduced to rubble.
And with it, a lot of memories. Take a look at this. This is all that was left of Ed's Chicken and Crabs after police say a suspected drunk driver crashed her car into the 38-year-old restaurant, causing it to burst into flames. But a few weeks later, hundreds of people showed up to show their support for restaurant owner Ed Riggin. Last week, a fundraising event was held at the Starboard in Dewey Beach.
And Ed joins us on the couches this afternoon. Thank you so much for coming in to Delmarva Life. Okay, so we're going to talk a little bit about the fire and the history of your restaurant in a few moments. But first of all, tell us, what was it like to see so many people show up to support you after this disaster?
It was astonishing. I mean, really a shocker. I mean, it was wonderful, you know, with all the people that showed up.
Were you surprised?
Yes, I was very surprised with the number of people there that showed up, yes.
A lot more people love you than you thought, huh?
Well, maybe so. I hope so, anyway.
Okay, I realize this may be tough. Would you take us back to the morning of the fire? What happened with you? What happened?
Well, I only live about 4 blocks from where the restaurant is, and a man that works for me that lives on the property, lives in my old office, shoe guard, called, I think it was about a little after 2, and he was kind of excited. I didn't talk to him. Sarah spoke to him on the phone, and all he said was he didn't say fire. I forget what he said, but he didn't say fire.
But he didn't say fire.
So I put on a pair of shorts, didn't wear a shirt, drove down to my place, and it was full of, I mean, flames there, and it was really too late. The fire company hadn't arrived at that time, but I realized that it was going to go anyway. It was just gone. Kind of shocking, you know?
I bet it was. Yeah. I bet it was. And you told WBOC News that it was the end of an era.
Yes, it was. I started in 78 there. This was our 38th year, and we had a lot of good times, a lot of good customers, great friends. And
do you plan to rebuild?
I don't know. I do not own the property. It's owned by the Katz family, and I don't know what they intend to do. I don't know. I'm 83, and I had a year left on the lease, and I was hesitant about whether I wanted to renew it. I don't know if we would have been available for renewing or not. So, but I love working. I love my customers, and I enjoy what I do. And I'm kind of bored.
He's more to do, huh?
I've been on the beach, I think, 3 times since that, and I don't know. It probably were 5 years before I was ever on the beach prior to that. And I'm a beach bum by heart. I love the beach there.
Well, let us tap into your experience. 38 years doing what you do. Talking to someone who's just starting out, what advice would you give them?
Well, you got to work hard. You know, I tell you, when it's tough. We were just a seasonal business. We opened on the weekends in April, and middle of May we would go 7 days a week. And as an owner, a seasonal business, you got to stay there. You got to. I put in a tremendous amount of hours. You know, it's a saying. When the cat's away, the mice are going to play, and I was a cat. You know, you gotta stay there.
Stay on top of the mice.
You gotta stay there all the time, and it's just there.
Well, obviously you had a winning formula to be there for so long, and one of those things is your barbecue chicken recipe. You gonna give it to us?
No,
you gonna give it away?
I don't think so.
No.
No.
Where did you come up with it? I mean, is it something that you did, or just you developed along the way?
I was in a Kiwanis Club for a number of years in Laurel, which is my hometown, and we always had some as fundraisers and everything. So that recipe really came, I guess, years ago from the Delmarva poultry industry. I didn't. I've changed up a little bit, but basically that's where it came from. I sell a lot of crabs. In fact, I sell more crabs than I do anything.
Right.
There.
So you just got the good crabs and put them on the table.
I hope so. I hope so. I think so, yeah.
From everything I've heard, you did for
Yeah.
sure.
Okay, well, we're not done with you yet,
Yeah.
Ed. We're going to talk a little bit more coming up.
Yes. So just before the break, we're speaking with Ed Riggin, owner of Ed's Chicken Shack and Crabs, about the devastating loss of his business.
Yeah, it was a business that had been around for 38 years. So we wanted to talk to Ed about the changes at the beach. He's seen over that nearly 4 decades. A lot has changed. You started in 1978, like you mentioned before. Right. It wasn't even called Dewey Beach back then, was it?
No, well, it was called Dewey Beach, yes, but it wasn't incorporated. The town wasn't incorporated, yes.
Yeah. So what was it like back then?
Well, I know it was different. It was wild. I mean, you could drink on the beach and everything like that. And then when they incorporated, that stopped a little bit after that. But Dewey Beach has really, we've become people think of Dewey Beach, it's just a party town, but it's more than that. It's lots more than that. It's become much more family now than it used to be. Much more. I know our traditional, what we called dinner time would be at 5, and at years ago we had a hard time closing at 7. At 11, not 7. Right. On Friday or Saturday nights, and now it's generally we were pretty slow generally by 9:30 or 10 o'clock because more families. It's more family oriented. It's not as party. I mean,
right.
Our business wasn't there.
Now, your reputation as a good boss is world renowned. Everybody talks about it. You've worked hard to put kids straight out of high school and in college to give them their first jobs. Why was that important to you?
Well, I was probably about the only place in town would hire young people. You know, yeah. When I think you had to be 15 or something to start with, and there was very few really adults that were there at the time. A few, Sarah Body for one was there for the entire tenure that we were open there, but most of them were kids. Most of them kids, and then the only year-round full-time employee I ever had was Gard Shugard. I mean, he started when he was 15. I think Gard is 43 now, and but he was there for quite a few years. For quite a few years.
Yeah. All those years, you had a lot of people coming in and out of your door. Any notable persons, celebrities that you remember?
When I first started, I just had a little pit out front. And I didn't sell anything but chicken for the first 5 years. And Sarah and I were out there, and this fella showed up in order 50 halves of chicken, and that we never sold 50 halves of chicken. That's most we ever sold at one time at that time. And he had a CBS T-shirt on him. And Sarah said to me, says, "Ed, do you think he works for CBS?" I said no. I said anybody can get those T-shirts. And so at the time, maybe it was 5 o'clock that he came to pick up the chicken. I questioned him. I said, "Do you work for CBS?" And he said, "Yes, I do." And I said, "What's your name, sir?" And he said, "Robert Pierpoint." Of course, Robert was a good customer for a number of years there, and it kind of peeved me that because I'm a news junkie, you know, right. that I didn't recognize him. I think he was CBS White House correspondent during Nixon's years, and then later on he was with CBS in London, with the London Bureau, and he had a place in Dewey Beach and lived there, not in Dewey, up in North Shores for a number of years. And Robert was a very good customer there. And in fact, at one time, Robert's a native of California, and he brought his father in one time, and his father was. This was years ago, and his father was 90-some years old, and heck, I don't know. I don't know if his father may have been there before statehood of California. I don't know, really.
My goodness.
And he stayed there for a number of years, and eventually sold sold his property there and went back to California after he retired.
Right.
Let's play a little game of fact or fiction, because we've heard a few stories about your business. Fact or fiction? You once got run over in your parking lot by a runaway Jaguar and a corn truck.
No, the Jaguar hit the corn truck and the truck ran over me. Yes.
So that was like halfway through. That's halfway fact.
That's right.
Okay.
That's right.
What was
right.
that?
I was
Okay.
very fortunate. I only got a fractured skull out of that. But I think one thing may have came out of that which unusual. Rarely did I ever get headaches at all, but I've never had a headache since that.
Well,
so
there you go.
I wouldn't recommend doing that.
Not the best process.
I wouldn't recommend.
So I understand you have certain talent with the sense of smell. What's going on with your sense of smell?
I can't smell
At all?
No, I can some things I can. I can't smell these flowers. I don't know if they're real or not.
They're real.
But I can't smell the ocean. But something I can smell gasoline. Certain things like
Yeah,
that.
dangerous things
Yeah,
maybe.
Yeah.
Okay.
If you want to hear something, would like to hear a little funny thing.
Sure.
I had a friend of mine, very close friends, one of my very best friends, and his family and everything. There, when their little boy, he was, I guess he was about 4 or 5. His father asked him. He said, "Ed," he says, "Connor, would you like Mr. Ed to? Would you like to work for Mr. Ed when you grow up?" He said, "No." And his father said, "Why?" He said, "Because Ed'll be dead." And oh, they were so embarrassed by that. They were so embarrassed. But you got to look at it. This little kid. He was 5 or 6. I'm not exaggerating. He would eat at least 1/2 of a chicken, and sometimes both halves of a chicken. He was 5 or 6 years old.
Oh my goodness.
And so he was young and he didn't know. He looked at that, but that little kid later worked for me for a couple of years.
That's awesome.
There.
Now, being at the beach and seeing all those kids coming in and out and coming there for the summers and stuff, did you see some romances bloom on the beach?
Sure. There were quite a few.
Quite a few,
Yeah.
more than you could probably
Yes,
mention.
yes,
Yeah.
there were. Yes.
Any stories you could share, or should we let that go?
No, I think we better let
We'll
that
let
Better
that one
let
go.
that go.
Okay,
I
just
didn't
in
know,
case.
you know, they're married. They say they
Yeah,
met at
yeah,
your
yeah.
restaurant, come back with their kids, anything?
Yeah, I heard a lot of that. A
Yeah.
lot of that. We had I was just counting it up last night. We've had 3 generations of my family. 3 generations have worked there, and I tried to total up to my recognition. We've had 12 second generation people have worked. In other words, one of their parents and
Yeah.
the kids have later on worked
my-
and a lot of that too.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
A minute ago you mentioned Sarah. Who's Sarah?
Sarah Body. She's a good friend of mine.
Yeah?
Yes. Yeah.
Been good friends for a long
A
time.
real good friend.
Yeah.
How come y'all laughing about this?
37 years. She's out there.
Mr. Regan, are there untold stories here that you're not sharing?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, there
All
are.
right. So,
I love her dearly.
Probably
Yes.
should keep it that way. Oh. Ed, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Good luck with the future, no matter what it holds.
Thank you.
All right.